No, I'm talking about the money, Drew. Where does the money come from? You say you need more money.
The money that comes
you say you haven't got the powers. Are you saying that Westminster
Matt,
should give you more money?
As you know, Matt, the vast majority of the money in the Scottish budget is through the Barnett consequentials, which is a fixed amount of money which comes to the Scottish government. We have very limited and small borrowing.
Do you think the incoming government, the incoming Labour or Conservative government, should put up income tax in order to give you more money in Scotland?
No, it's not. What I'm saying is that they need to change their austerity obsession just now. It's a failing system.
But where does the money come from, Drew? The Scottish National Party launching their manifesto this morning, with First Minister John Swinney claiming they're the only major party offering a truly left-of-centre manifesto. Drew Hendry from the SNP joins me now. Hi, Drew.
Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Very good. Good to have you with us. John Swinney's going to be talking about the damage caused by 14 years of Tory government in Westminster. People have had enough, apparently. How is that different to the SNP being in power in Scotland for 17 years?
Well, the SNP have taken a number of policies forward that have helped people. So one big example is our efforts on child poverty. With one hand tied behind our back, we've introduced the Scottish Child Payment, while Westminster, both the Tories and Labour, cling to the two-child cap, the odious rape clause, which is plunging more people into poverty. We've enabled 100,000 businesses through taking away business rates for them. We've got, at the moment, David Phillips of the Institute for Fiscal Studies this week was pointing out that we've got higher growth than the UK average in Scotland, a broad-based economy, and the best educated workforce in the UK. And we're also the absolute go-to for foreign investment, outpacing the rest of the UK and Europe. So, there's an awful lot to be proud of. I don't think we get the media coverage for those kinds of things that we've avoided. For example, strikes in the NHS in Scotland, avoided the rail strikes, and we've taken the railways, the ScotRail into public hands. We have Scottish Water in public hands. We have the best performing NHS A&E across the UK for 9 years now. So there's an awful lot to be proud of with the SNP's achievement.
Okay,
and
Drew,
going into this election,
sorry, because we don't have loads of time, Drew. Just let me jump in there. If it all sounds lovely, the Scotland you're painting. If that is the case, why is it on the basis of polls that we're seeing, Ipsos's MRP poll out today, why are you on course to lose more than half of your MPs in Scotland?
Well, an MRP poll came out just 2 days ago showing that we were going to win 37 seats. So, polls are...
We've got 48 at the moment. So why are you going backwards if everything's all right in Scotland?
Well, obviously, the people want rid of the Tories. That's an overriding emotion for people. Clearly, there's going to be a Labour government to achieve that. What we need to do now is say to people, look, the SNP are the only party offering a positive and hopeful alternative to a broken Westminster system and more years of austerity, because the Labour Party are going to follow the same fiscal rules as the Tories, which means more austerity. That's a policy that's failed and failed and failed again, no matter how they've dressed it up, and it's going to be carried forward into the next Parliament. So we're offering to the people of Scotland an opportunity to tackle the cost of living crisis, to grow our economy further, and to protect public services in the NHS. Scotland can do better, and we need a strong voice in the UK Parliament to do that.
You mentioned the NHS. The number of patients on the elective waiting list in Scotland is up 87% since the start of the pandemic. The numbers waiting for more than 18 weeks for elective treatment and for more than 4 hours in A&E are also up. We talked about schools. The most recent PISA report in December showed a long-term decline in Scotland's performance in reading, maths and science, all falling behind England. That's the reality of 17 years of the SNP in power in Scotland, isn't it?
I've just quoted the Institute for Fiscal Studies talking about the best educated workforce in the UK. And, actually, when you look at the attainment for primary school children, that's now at a record high. So are there issues that the government needs to deal with? Absolutely. Is there more demand on the NHS? Of course, there is. And that's the reason why we need to protect and invest in the NHS. We've seen Wes Streeting from the Labour Party say he wants to throw open the doors to privatisation. Well, privatisation means less core funding for the NHS, which has
To
consequences.
be clear, Drew, he's not
Scotland.
talking about privatising the NHS. He's talking about using private companies to carry out free healthcare.
He's been quoted, Matt, he has been quoted as throwing open the doors to private companies in the NHS.
To provide free care. It's not privatisation. It's not saying that you'd have to pay for it. He's saying that you would use...
More private work in the NHS means less funded work for the NHS, which means less budget. These things have consequences. All of these decisions have consequences, Matt. And that when we've got a fixed budget in Scotland, which is determined by Westminster, I've got to say the lowest percentage budget in the history of devolution compared to UK spending in this parliamentary term, with a 9% cut in our capital budget. All of those things filter through into what we can do and the choices that we want to make. Now, of course, we want to drive forward the NHS and the NHS performance. That is, according to any measures, going to take funding to do that. And when the funding is being cut off at Westminster in the way that it has been, that's a real problem.
The thing is, though, Drew, it's not a fixed budget. You now have tax-raising powers. You have made a decision to put up income tax.
A very small amount of tax-raising powers. And we've introduced a progressive tax system, which has will have raised £1.5 billion towards public services. That's been supported by the public. At the same time, 58% of households are actually paying the same or less tax than the rest of the UK, and our council tax is much lower. So the progressive choices that we're making are making a difference, but they're not at the same scale of the full macroeconomic powers that the UK government has.
You already spend, there's public spending in Scotland is already 15% higher than the UK average.
Yeah, because of the choices that we're making in Scotland.
But I thought you just said you didn't have enough money. So it turns out you're spending more money.
We should be doing more. But what we've been saddled with is the consequences of a Brexit.
So where should that money come from? Should it come from Westminster, from English taxpayers,
of course,
or do you want powers to put up income tax so it's even higher in Scotland?
Well, listen, Matt, I don't think anybody will be surprised that I want all of the powers for Scotland to come to Scotland so that we can make our own decisions.
So you can put up income tax. Vote SNP, put up income tax. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. What we've done is we've taken a progressive view on tax, where we've had the small amount of tax raising powers that we've had. We've said that those who are earning the most should pay a little more, so that.
No, but you've just said you want more money. Where does that money come from? Should it come from England, where you're already getting more money than Scotland?
Well, at the moment, most of the spending plans that the UK government and Labour have got are actually coming from Scotland through taxing the North Sea and the windfall tax that's coming through there. So we would absolutely...
But Drew, Scotland already spends per person 15% above the UK average. It's £14,500 in Scotland, just under £14,000 in Wales, about the same in Northern Ireland. In England, it was £12,227. So what I'm saying to you is, where does this money come from? Are you saying it should come from the Westminster government, or put up taxes in Scotland? It's a fundamental
misunderstanding of Scotland when you look at that. I'm sitting here in the Highlands in Inverness. We have a large rural economy. Of course, we have to spend more to provide services across the rural areas.
There were rural areas in England and Wales as well. I'm saying you're launching a manifesto saying you want more money for the NHS, which is devolved, and you're entirely responsible for the NHS.
The funding for the NHS ultimately is set by the UK.
Well, the overall budget that you have is set by Westminster. But you've also got tax raising powers. Are you saying to SNP?
We don't have the kind of tax raising powers that
So are you saying to people in Scotland, vote SNP and we'll put your taxes up to fund the NHS?
No.
So where does the money come from?
Well, if you let me finish, I'll tell you. We're saying vote SNP because, first of all, we want to take a bill to Parliament to say that we shouldn't have any further privatisation of the NHS.
I'm talking about the money, Drew. Where does the money come from? You say you need more money. You say you haven't got the powers. Are you saying that Westminster should give you more money?
As you know, Matt, the vast majority of the money in the Scottish budget is through the Barnett consequentials, which is a fixed amount of money which comes to the Scottish government. We have very limited and small borrowing.
Do you think the incoming government, the incoming Labour or Conservative government, should put up income tax in order to give you more money in Scotland?
No, it's not. What I'm saying is that they need to change their austerity obsession just now. It's a failing system.
But where does the money come from, Drew?
There's been no growth in the UK economy.
Where does the money come from?
Additional funding. Sorry?
Where does the money come from?
The money comes from different choices. If, for example, the UK adopted a progressive taxation system, such as the one we've demonstrated with the limited powers that we have in
So
Scotland,
it's putting up income tax.
they could raise that extra funding.
Okay.
Yeah, they could charge the people who've got the very most a little more in order to put more money back into services to protect those things. Councils are going bust across England, Matt, because of the lack of investment. You know, that's something that has consequences. When you starve public services, and we know there's an £18 billion minimum hole, the IFS have said there is a conspiracy of silence with both the Tories and Labour Party.
Okay, and people have heard what you've said. Drew Hendry, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately. We've got very late for the news, but wanted to give you time to spell all that out. Drew Hendry from the SNP ahead of their manifesto launch today.